What if I told you there's a hidden door in your body? A key that has been silently waiting to be touched, to release an ancient energy dormant within you. This is not a poetic metaphor, it's literal. It's right there at the base of your neck. You've felt it thousands of times without truly noticing, but now you're about to discover its true power. Imagine this, centuries ago, on the plains of Tibet, in the temples of Egypt, in the jungles of southern India, initiates, sages, and mystics practiced a technique as simple as it was mysterious. It required no words, no candles, no long mantras. It was only a touch, a precise gesture. And with it, the veil between the visible and the invisible began to tear. They didn't meditate for hours. They didn't sit waiting for silence. They touched that point at the base of the skull. And something happened, something that can't be explained with logic, but is felt in every cell of the body. An activation, an awakening, as if a spark ignited from within. Why doesn't anyone talk about this? Because this wisdom was hidden. Because it's not taught in modern yoga schools or self-help books. This is the kind of truth that travels from mouth to mouth, from soul to soul, through those who are ready to remember. In this video, you're going to discover what that hidden point at the back of the neck really is, and why ancient traditions saw it as a portal between worlds, how to activate it safely and consciously to awaken your dormant energy, what physical, energetic, and spiritual effects you might experience when touching it, and how to integrate it into your daily life to access a state of deep presence, inner clarity, and expanded consciousness. But be careful. Once you activate this point, there's no going back. You'll no longer be able to live disconnected. You'll no longer be able to ignore that part of you that has always known you were more than a body, more than a name, more than a story. You are about to cross a threshold, and you'll do it with a single gesture. Get ready, because the knowledge that changes your life doesn't always come from great teachers. Sometimes it comes from the soft whisper of your own energy, awakening right at the base of your skull. To understand the deep dimension of this energy point in the neck, we can't look at it through the lens of modern physiology alone. We must dive into the deep waters of esoteric history, back when the body wasn't analyzed like a machine, but revered as a sacred map of the soul. There, right where the head ends and the neck begins, the ancients saw more than bones and muscles. They saw a portal. What we now associate anatomically with the occipital bone was, in many cultures, considered a passage, not a physical one, but a metaphysical threshold, a channel through which spiritual energy ascended or descended, depending on the practitioner's level of awareness. In ancient Egypt, the initiates of the Karnak temple spoke of the eye of the neck, an invisible eye sealed in the uninitiated, but opened in those who passed the temple trials. It wasn't a metaphor. By activating that point, they experienced visions, extrasensory perception, and what we now call altered states of consciousness, but which they saw as a return to the soul's original vision. In Chinese medicine, this location corresponds to the Feng Fu point, part of the meridian system. Feng Fu literally means palace of wind, and that's no coincidence. It was believed that stimulating this spot could release trapped perverse wind, in other words, chaotic energies that block the natural flow of qi, but it wasn't just about physical health. For Taoists, this point had a spiritual implication. It was the back gate of heaven, a subtle channel between the earthly plane and the Shen, the universal consciousness. Even in India's tantric yoga, the nape region is related to the junction between the Vishuddha, chakra, throat, and the connection to the Bindu, a subtle, invisible drop that represents the memory of the divine. Some texts mention that by awakening this point, this drop of nectar is reactivated, provoking a state of natural bliss and unity with the whole. Why then is this not more openly taught? Because this is wisdom meant to be felt, not rationally understood. The ancients knew the body holds doors that only open from within. And this point on the neck is not a technique. It is an internal rite, a silent calling. What's fascinating is that even modern science unintentionally has begun to brush up against this truth. The region where this point is located is connected to the autonomic nervous system, the medulla oblongata, and the functions that regulate balance, consciousness, and sensory perception. Beyond that, neuroscience studies have shown that subtle stimulation of this area can shift brainwave frequency and activate states of deep relaxation or heightened awareness. The ancient wisdom knew this. They didn't call it neuromodulation, they called it awakening. The point at the nape is not merely anatomical, it is archetypal. It is the base of the skull, yes, but it is also the root of remembrance. And now that you've discovered it, you can no longer ignore it. In every great energetic system, there is an access point, a hidden trigger that, once activated, awakens what seemed asleep, reactivates what was forgotten, and transforms what was stagnant. The point at the back of the neck is no exception. On the contrary, it is one of the most powerful precisely because it is one of the least understood. This place, right where the base of the skull meets, the neck holds what spiritual traditions consider to be an energetic intersection, a nodal point. But it's not some floating magical zone in the aura. It is a tangible, physical center with a direct correspondence in the subtle body's internal channels. Why is it so important? Because here 3 fundamental pathways intertwine. 1. The spinal cord channel, sushumna, in tantric terms, through which the kundalini energy or life force ascends. 2. The connection with the medulla oblongata, responsible for autonomous functions such as breathing, heart rate and basic consciousness. 3. The resonance with the body's electromagnetic field, what some might call the aura, or in more modern terms, the human biofield. When you touch this point with intention and precision, you're simultaneously activating these 3 pathways. It's as if you were pressing a button that sets in motion a mechanism that has been dormant for years, even lifetimes. But this button doesn't respond to force. It responds to awareness. The correct movement is subtle, almost reverent. You can use the index and middle fingers together, or the tip of the thumb if you prefer a firmer touch. The key is not to push, but to press and release, as if you were knocking on an inner door. Do it with your eyes closed. Breathe slowly, and in that instant allow perception to dissolve. Don't think about what should happen, just feel. What happens then? First, a sensation of gentle warmth. Some describe a tingling that rises up the nape or descends, like a waterfall down the spine. Others feel an internal pressure, as if something were unlocking. In deeper states, the whole body seems to be wrapped in a vibrating magnetic field. And most importantly, the mind begins to quiet down naturally. This is the first sign of activation. The mind no longer struggles for control and it surrenders. And when the mind becomes still, what emerges is expanded consciousness. But why does this happen with just a simple touch? Because the body holds secret maps, and this point on the nape is like a direct access to the inner operating system. You don't need to activate all your chakras. You don't need complex breathing sequences. You just need to remember how to return home. And this point is the back door to that forgotten home. Additionally, touching this point triggers synchronization between the brain's hemispheres. That is, the logical and intuitive brains begin to communicate more harmoniously. It is then that new ideas emerge, creative possibilities open, and answers that were once buried in the fog of thought become clear. This touch doesn't impose, it invites, it doesn't demand, and it suggests. And the one who accepts the invitation discovers that the soul doesn't need to go anywhere. It only needs the right door to be opened. And that door is right behind you, literally. We've talked about its power, its activation, the energetic pathways that converge at this sacred point. But now it's time to go deeper, beyond the obvious. Because if this point on the nape truly is a door, what does it guard? What forces are set in motion when we open it? And what risks or revelations may arise when we cross the threshold? First, let's talk about the dual nature of this point. It is not just a door upward toward expansion. It is also a door inward, into the most forgotten layers of the self. When activated correctly, it not only awakens latent energy, but also illuminates what was hidden in the shadows. And this is where true alchemy begins. In many traditions, this point has been associated with the ability to perceive the world behind the world, not through physical sight, but through contact with subtler levels of reality. When this channel opens, perception shifts focus, the senses sharpen, time slows down, and one begins to notice things that were previously invisible. Not because they didn't exist, but because consciousness wasn't ready to perceive them. Some experience this as an increase in sensitivity, being able to feel others' emotions more clearly, anticipate events, or even perceive energetic patterns in places or people. This is not suggestion. It's the natural consequence of having activated an internal circuit that was previously dormant. It's like removing a blindfold, but from the soul. However, like any powerful tool, this access requires responsibility. Activating the point on the nape may stir dormant memories, traumas, deep conditionings, and this is part of the process. Not as punishment, but as purification of the channel. Imagine a pipe that hasn't been used in decades. When you turn it on, the water comes out murky at first, then clean. That's how energy works in us as well. That's why it is crucial to integrate this practice with moments of stillness, conscious breathing, and, if possible, writing or contemplation. Because what emerges after activating this point, sensations, images, memories, may not make immediate sense, but it will carry a message. And that message may be the key to reconfiguring how you live within yourself. This point also acts as an amplifier of intention. Have you noticed that during moments of crisis or instinctive clarity, we instinctively place a hand on the nape of our neck? That's no coincidence. The body remembers. And when this point has been consciously activated, it becomes a silent power center that reinforces your purpose, magnetizes your attention, and harmonizes your decisions with your essence. Furthermore, this center has a little-known property. It is a balancer of the body-mind-spirit axis. When you feel lost, disconnected, or mentally overwhelmed, a conscious touch on this zone can reconnect you with your inner axis in a matter of seconds. Because it's not just about energy, it's about alignment. And alignment is what allows energy to flow without distortion. In advanced states of practice, some report experiences such as perceiving their own or others' auras, sensing an expansion into their surroundings, accessing memories of past lives, or feeling a profound communion with the whole. Is this magic? No, it's spiritual physiology. It is the art of activating the sacred within the physical. It proves that you don't need to go anywhere else to find the divine. It's within you, right at the base of your skull. A spiritual revelation alone doesn't transform a life. What truly transforms is daily integration. Knowing that there is a point at the nape of the neck that activates dormant energy in your body is a powerful discovery. But only when you bring that wisdom into the rhythm of your everyday life does it become embodied, alive, fertile. You don't need to become a monk to integrate this practice. No temple is required, and no incense, no Tibetan bells. All you need is a body and presence. Your true temple is your attention. And the altar? That sacred point where your head meets your spine. Here are 5 essential tips to turn this knowledge into a practical guide for transformation. First, awaken with the touch. Make the first minutes of your day a sacred act. Before opening your eyes fully, gently bring your hand to your nape. Breathe deeply. Lightly press the occipital center with your fingers and stay there for a moment. Feel, don't think. You are telling your body that the day begins not by obligation, but by choice. This morning touch helps align your energetic systems, calms the nervous system, and awakens an inner sense of orientation. Second, create a micro-ritual of reconnection. 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and night, pause whatever you're doing for 1 minute. Bring your attention to the nape point. Breathe deeply. Press with awareness. Observe how your energy shifts. This gesture not only centers your mind, it reminds you that there is a deeper center beyond any external chaos. This simple repeated act becomes your energetic compass, your anchor in the storm. Third, activate the point before meditating or creating. Before a spiritual, artistic, or contemplative practice, touch this point with intention, as if ringing an invisible bell inside you. You'll notice that clarity increases, mental distractions dissolve more easily, and your state of presence deepens. Once awakened, this point becomes like a conductor, organizing your energies, so your expression aligns with your essence. Fourth, use it as emotional medicine. Feeling anxious, sad, or blocked, this point can be your silent remedy. Instead of running from it, you come closer. Instead of resisting, and press with love. The physical contact with this center, especially when you're emotionally charged, acts as a key to internal rebalancing. You're not suppressing the emotion, you're channeling it. you're giving it a path, a safe energetic outlet. Fifth, make sleep a gateway to activation. Before going to sleep, perform one final activation, a gentle touch at the nape of the neck. While breathing slowly can be the difference between a restless night and a restorative journey. This nighttime touch holds the power to open the gates of the subconscious, allowing for lucid dreams, insights, and deep healing. Sleep will no longer be just rest, but a communion with inner dimensions. Remember, it's not about doing more, but about doing what you already do with greater awareness. The touch at the nape is not a trick. It's a constant reminder of your energetic nature, your inner power, and the wisdom that runs along your spine like a river of subtle fire. Each time you practice it, you are telling yourself, I am not lost, I am returning. And sometimes that single statement is all you need to return to your center. This was not an ordinary journey. And if you've made it this far, it's because your soul had already begun to remember the point at the nape, that quiet, almost forgotten threshold. It's not merely an anatomical curiosity or a spiritual trend. It is in truth a hidden compass pointing back to yourself. This small point, when touched with reverence and awareness, holds the power to ignite what had been dormant, not because it is magical in itself, but because it awakens the memory of your original energy. That energy that once flowed freely when you were a child, that consciousness that didn't need words to know, that deep feeling of belonging with the whole, which perhaps you thought you had, lost for years, but never truly did. In ancient cultures, this point was more than a physical location. It was the root of memory, the antenna that connects the human being to the invisible field of the spirit. In the Sumerian temples, in the corridors of Tibet, in the rituals of pre-Columbian America, this knowledge was passed on orally, from body to body, vibration to vibration. Why did it vanish from the modern map? Because we live in an era of disconnection, where we were taught to think with the mind, but not to feel with the body, to accumulate data but not wisdom, to run but not to pause, to look outward, forgetting that the door has always been within. And now that you've rediscovered it, you can no longer go back, and because the body remembers. And when the body remembers, the soul begins to return. This technique does not require fanaticism or perfection, only presence, commitment to your own process, and the humility to understand that the most sacred thing is not in the heavens, it is at the base of your skull, in that forgotten bone that hides a drum that has always been beating. Each time you touch that point, you are reminding your energy of its path. You are telling the universe, I am here, present, ready. And the universe, which never stopped listening to you, responds, and now it's your turn. If this knowledge touched you, if something inside you vibrated like an ancient string being tuned, subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and share this video with those who sense that there is more, because this information doesn't belong to just one person. It belongs to all who are ready to awaken, and if you're reading these lines, you already are. Remember, this is not a technique, and it's a key, not a trend, but a legacy, not something new, but something eternal that is only just beginning. See you on the next journey. Until then, touch with awareness, breathe with presence, and let the body show you the path back to yourself.